NBC and MSNBC were teaming up for a mission called Hiring Our Heroes. We're trying to help military families and veterans who are coming back from these long tours in both of these wars who are now looking for work. But thousands of veterans, just getting a roof over their head can be a struggle. Rhode Island Senator Jack Reed is a former Army Ranger. He's a graduate of West Point, member of the Armed Services Committee, and he's been focused on this particular issue. And I want to focus on it this morning. Senator Reed, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Chuck, and I want to thank you and NBC and MSNBC for your efforts to publicize the plight of these extraordinary young men and women who have served the country. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about, it's the least, frankly, that we can do. Let's talk about this issue of this homeless veteran and the growth of the homeless veteran population. Right now, this week, the HUD Secretary said 1 out of every 6 men and women in our shelters once wore a military uniform. How much of this is simply from these last 2 wars?
A significant number. One of the most interesting comments I heard, I was talking to Admiral Mike Mullen, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and he was meeting with young veterans in San Diego, and he was shocked because a significant number of them sort of raised their hands and said, you know, we don't have a place to stay. We're bunking on the couch of a buddy. We don't have our own homes. And these were 25, 30-year-olds. So it's not just the phenomenon of people who may have served in previous conflicts or served decades ago. A lot of this are Iraqi and Afghanistani war veterans.
Well, I mean, the stats are sort of a little bit jaw-dropping. Veterans are 50% more likely to fall into homelessness than other Americans. And I think you sort of touch on why. You know, they come home, maybe, you know, they were living at home, and then they can't live at home anymore after they've come back from their tour. They don't necessarily have an easy way in on the educational system. So what are the different remedies that you think government can come up with in this case?
Well, we've already proposed several initiatives, and I must say that both the President and Secretary Eric Shinseki of VA, who is a combat veteran of Vietnam himself, has been very, very aggressive in trying to move these forward. The first thing I think we have to do is integrate our approach to services from the Department of Labor, the Department of HUD, and the Veterans Administration. We've got to reach out to these veterans. We've got to work with local veterans organizations, and then what we have to do, the most practical aspect, is to increase the number of vouchers that the VA controls so that they can actually give rental assistance to these veterans so they can help them get into homes. So if you reach out and provide them the voucher and counseling, that'll go a long way. Our goal should be to end veterans' homelessness in the United States. It's shocking that these young men and women who have served the country so well now literally can't find a place to stay.
You know, as we try to figure out, and bases, you know, shut down in this country, should former military bases be used for veterans that come home? I mean, should they be given an opportunity as a transitional living for a year, 2 years after they're done with their tour, after they're done with their service, to still live in sort of military housing?
Well, I think there are several things that we can look at, but frankly, I think probably the most cost-effective and I think best for the veterans really is to give them the support they need financially, a voucher to find rental housing, and or to, if they have the need for support for a mortgage, the VA does provide low-cost mortgages. But the real issue, I think, is getting people into adequate rental housing. One of the problems with living on a military base is, you know, you've left the Army, you're sure in this status, or the Navy or the Marine Corps. I think it's much, much more effective to go the rental housing route, and that requires this voucher program that we've been pushing aggressively.
What are the chances it gets passed this year?
Well, I think there's a very good chance. We've already increased the number of vouchers which the VA has, together with HUD, to use. The proposal in the President's budget looks for increased resources to do that. This is one of these issues where it does cost money, and this is the trade-off here. And some of the proposals that I've heard around town simply to cut the deficit, they're important, but you can't do it, particularly on the backs of veterans, of these young men and women who serve.
Jack Reed, Democrat from Rhode Island.
Thanks, Chuck.
West Point graduate, Vietnam veteran. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.